Hey everyone, this is KM Frequency back again with a video on the Surface Pro 8. It's Microsoft's hallmark tablet device and it is a beauty. The Microsoft Surface line has been great even from its inception. It had some hangups initially, but Microsoft has hit its stride. I own a Surface Laptop 3 and I've also owned the Surface Pro 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are excellent tablets that give other competitors' devices a run for their money. The money part is a big thing about this tablet and one that needs to be discussed, and I will get into that later. First, I'm going to talk about how it runs in everyday use, good and bad as usual. No device is without its share of problems, whether subjective for each individual or completely objective. A quick thanks for the subscribers and comments between the last few videos. I greatly appreciate the support and it motivates me to keep making great content for you all. It was a big surprise for me to see so many people watch the videos and enjoy them. I also see the comments about the volume of the background music, and I'm always willing to make adjustments. This is my first time creating and the experience has been awesome and I'm learning on the fly. So I hear some of you about the music. The music will not be going away, but I can get a lot better with the sound mixing. Again, I thank everyone for the support, it means a lot. And with that being said, on to the video. The design of the Surface Pro 8 is simply spectacular. The anodized aluminum used on the Surface line now gives it the cleanest look possible. This is along with smaller bezels just like the Surface Pro X, giving it more screen real estate and a bigger focus on the content of the screen. The Pro 8 comes in platinum or graphite just like the model that you see here. The only thing is that the graphite is only available on the 256GB model, which comes with an increased price tag. The Surface comes equipped with the Intel Evo platform, which comes in an i5 or i7 configuration for the processor with RAM sizes from 8GB to 32GB. The screen is a beautiful 13-inch pixel-sense display, as Microsoft calls it, that carries a resolution of 2880 by 1920 and a refresh rate of 120Hz, a first for the Surface line. The 120Hz refresh rate makes it feel snappy and smooth, mainly when used with the Surface Pen. There is one front-facing camera, and the rear camera can shoot in 4K if you like taking video footage with your tablet. Next, we have two studio microphones right beside the front-facing camera. The Surface Pro 8 also has a fantastic kickstand that can go nearly 180 degrees. It is perfect to use if you just want an elevated surface for writing, or if you just want to prop it up for watching media on it. It has dual front-firing speakers, which I will also talk about later because these speakers really surprised me for a tablet in this price range, especially when compared to the competitors. And as for the ports, you have the now near extinct 3.5mm headphone jack, probably one of the only devices left still containing one, especially at this price range. I'm glad they decided to keep that as an option when so many manufacturers have abandoned it. On top of that, there are two USB-C 4.0/Thunderbolt 4 ports, the magnetic charging port, the Surface type cover port, and the always added Surface Connect port. The Surface Connect port is used for connecting the Surface dock, which acts as a hub for extra ports so you can connect the external displays and devices. The Surface dock is a useful accessory but will set you back about $260. I also forgot to mention that there is a swappable SSD with the Surface Pro 8. The compatible drives are particularly the M.2 2230, which can start from about $99 to $250 for sizes bigger than 128. This is the area that I know everyone wants to hear about. Everyone likes to use their tablets differently from one another. Some people like to use it to replace a laptop in certain occasions. At the same time, others may want to use it as something to pick up around the house. That could be for reading books, browsing the web, or watching YouTube videos like this one. Generally speaking, this tablet can basically do it all and then some. It's running a full version of Windows 11, so whatever you get on a regular desktop or laptop, you get that here, just in a tablet form factor. There are some added benefits to make it more appealing, and one of them is the speakers. The speakers are some of the best I've ever heard from a tablet, hands down. Most manufacturers cheap out when it comes to audio, but Microsoft outdid themselves here. Trust me on this one. Comparing it to my iPad Pro and Galaxy Tab S8 Plus, it's definitely a step above both. Sound is clear and crisp, and the right amount of bass to make it sound full. I can describe the screen as gorgeous and fluid. It is of course the tablet's most crucial feature when seen as this is 90% of what this device is and what you'll be using all the time. I mean, it's practically in the name. The screen resolution isn't the highest, but it gets the job done. Text is clear and there isn't pixelation to speak of, as well as thankfully being able to get bright enough to use outside without straining your eyes. When you talk about a Surface, most of the other important features come from things like the type cover in the Surface Pen or Slim Pen. Using the Slim Pen or the newer Slim Pen 2 is probably the best writing experience I've ever had on a tablet. It feels like you're writing on paper, whether you push down hard with the pen to make darker, thicker lines, or release that pressure to make thinner, lighter strokes. The pen is simply unique. I can't ever forget the greatest invention of a stylus, an actual eraser on the other end of the pen, just like you would on an ordinary pencil. It completes the whole package, making it just as natural as writing in a notebook. You don't realize just how much you would love to have that eraser when you go back to using a stylus without one. The pen is the feature of the Surface Pro. I don't have the keyboard at the moment, but I do have the Surface Pen, which is the previous model. Personally, I wasn't interested in purchasing the keyboard for my particular use case because I like to use my tablets like a tablet. I don't want them straddling the line too much because then you have blending products and it eventually becomes redundant, at least to me. That's what leads me to my first problem with this tablet. When making the switch from Windows 10 to 11, they got rid of the tablet mode that existed on previous Surface Pro models, making the Surface pretty unusable as a tablet. In my opinion, Windows 11 is just not built for tablet use yet. I know they are improving some functions to make it more touch friendly, but at this point to me, it's just a Surface laptop without the keyboard. And I get it, the Surface Pro is supposed to be a convertible, a 2-in-1 if you will, and it's excellent at it. Still, it runs the same as the Surface laptop, almost feature for feature. There aren't many other features of the Surface to speak of other than the pen and its probably necessary counterpart, the keyboard or the slim pen charger, which also leads me to the elephant in the room, the price. I have to talk about the price separately because it is the most important part of covering this tablet. It is the one obstacle in the way of me falling in love with it. I know people have discussed this ad nauseum, but not enough in my opinion. So let's begin. The base model of the Surface Pro 8 starts at about $1,099 for the Platinum model at the Microsoft Store with 128 gigabytes of storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM. If you want 256 gigabytes of storage, then you have to go up $100 to $1,199. Then at this point, graphite becomes an option for purchase. Then if you want to double the RAM to 16 gigabytes, that jumps the price to $1399. This is just for the i5 models. When you get to the i7 models, you start at $1399 and max out at $2599 for the 1TB of storage and 32 gigabytes of RAM. Now with all that being said, remember, these are the prices without the pen or the keyboard included. With the pen included, you're talking about an extra $100 to each model. You don't need the pen, but mind you, this is the whole draw of the computer, so it would be kind of pointless to go without. Don't forget, the pen doesn't come with a charger, so you have to purchase that too at $34.99, or you can buy the slim keyboard. This would give you the ability to type and charge the pen too, but the keyboard is $180. If we just take the base model with 128 gigabytes of storage, we're talking about a total of $1,400 before tax. This is a lot of money for the specs that you're getting for this tablet, especially when you can get more through other 2-in-1s like the HP Spectre X360. I am merely speaking from a cost perspective standpoint. Surface products are amazing, but this iteration of the Surface Pro is costing a little too much before buying what may be necessary depending on your own use case. If you're buying just the tablet and the pen, there are cheaper alternatives like the Galaxy Tab S series. If you're buying the tablet and the keyboard, there are alternatives like the HP Spectre I mentioned earlier with way better specs for the same price. There's just no win for the price point on this Surface when there are so many alternatives at cheaper prices and better value propositions. Only when you have a personal preference for the Surface line will it lead you to actually purchase one. Alright, let me get off my soapbox and discussion about the price to talk about the performance of the Surface, because for paying this much, you're going to want some top-notch optimization. The Surface Pro's performance is what you would expect from your standard Windows computer, but streamlined for Surface. There's absolutely no bloatware to speak of, no slowdown on startup, shutdown, or normal usage of this computer. The Surface Pro 8 is extra fluid when running your standard task, even with this 8GB model that I have here. The high refresh rate makes things feel even faster. Applications load as soon as you click them, and for what I have noticed, I haven't really ran into many issues. Running Xbox Game Pass with the cloud on this device is the smoothest it will ever be. I noticed that games seem to be a lot clearer and crisp than my Galaxy Tab S8 Plus, which is natural considering that it's a Microsoft product and the Surface Pro 8 was built with Game Pass in mind. It can run a little hot when doing multiple tasks, having a lot of tabs open, or when running something that requires a little bit more power. This includes games and some graphical intensive software. The fans will kick on and they can be somewhat noticeable and sometimes slightly annoying. Here's the test. No, that is not my iMac making that fan noise. That is the actual Surface. It's not super loud, but you can hear it when it's consistently running. Besides that, overall, the Surface Pro 8 is one of the smoothest tablets I have ever used. You can run programs like Adobe Lightroom and Premiere Pro on the base model. Still, it may not be the smoothest experience for the latter, especially when I try to edit it on myself. The quad-core processor does its job mostly, but it can't stand up to your standard machine unless you opt for higher power configurations. We all know that's not why we buy tablets like this though. It's primarily on the go for some of us. Still, for others, if it's your single computer, you definitely wouldn't have a problem using the base model at all. It would be preferable to up that RAM to 16GB if possible. You can swap out the SSD, but you can't swap out the RAM. So it would probably be in your best interest to invest in the RAM as a priority. And referencing the prices that I was talking about earlier, the RAM increase is going to hit your wallet pretty hard. The battery of the Surface Pro 8 is actually one of its shortcomings. To be honest, it doesn't last very long. When running complex tasks, I can safely say that if you can hear those fans running, it won't last longer than about 4 hours max, and that's being generous. I was able to get a maximum of about 5 hours screen on time just browsing the internet and some heavy note taking, which is mainly what I use my tablets for. I did notice that a lot of note-taking apps, no matter what tablet I use, tend to drain the battery very quickly, and the reasoning could be because these note-taking apps are constantly trying to sync info and you're constantly using Bluetooth with the pen. So the numbers could be skewed just a little bit. I even tested it without using those note-taking apps and just tried genuine browsing, and the results pretty much stayed the same, so it seemed like it was pretty conclusive. To sum it up, I was extremely disappointed in the battery, and it's unacceptable for a tablet in this price range. Although, to its defense, it is literally running Windows 11 in full, so I'm not completely surprised at the screen on time or even standby time of the Surface. The thing is though, 5 hours is 5 hours, and it's pretty disappointing. For a tablet that costs as much as it does, this kind of battery life is unacceptable, especially considering back when I used to own the Surface Pro 5, the battery life was definitely not amazing, but good, and much better than what you see here. Not to mention, the Surface Pro 5 base model was almost $300 cheaper too when it released. The Surface Pro 8 is all around one of the best, if not the best tablet you can buy. The only problem that gets in the way of me recommending one is the price. While the Surface Pro 8 is a fantastic piece of tech, it costs way too much. So many alternative devices can help you accomplish the same task you are trying to achieve on the Surface. There's the Galaxy Tab S8 Plus, the iPad Pro, the HP Spectre X360 to name a few. Considering the cost, even the Surface Laptop or the Studio might be a better alternative than the Surface Pro 8. The latter two come with keyboards while the Surface Pro does not. I'm not saying that it would be wrong to get the Surface Pro 8 instead of those two, or even the other alternatives I mentioned earlier. The versatility of the Surface Pro line is pretty unmatched in terms of polish and function for those that want that. The problem is the Surface Pro 8 price is just too much in my opinion for what you can get elsewhere and have the same or similar functionality. The battery also doesn't do much for the value, primarily when it functions as a tablet. If you like this video, give it a like, comment, and think about subscribing. I'll see you all in the next video.